The saying goes that behind every great man is a great woman, and Emma of Normandy is no exception. Married to two kings of England, her political manoeuvrings helped to guide the country through the Viking Age, and she ensured that her sons would maintain the crown. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talking History. My name's Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're all keeping well. On this channel I do exactly as it's called, I talk all about history, and today's video is all about a truly inspirational woman, way ahead of her time, Emma of Normandy. Emma was born around 984. She was born to Richard I, Duke of Normandy, also known as Richard the Fearless, and born to his second wife, Gunna. She was raised in northern France, where she would enter the world of politics at a very young age. And across the Channel, on England was under constant threat by Viking forces. Ethelred II of England, also known as Ethelred the Unready, was desperate for a solution. Richard I was desperate to improve the political ties between England and the House of Normandy, so a union between the regions could unite them against a common Viking threat. Only a teenager, aged possibly around 16 years old, the political match that was arranged by her father in 1002 saw Emma of Normandy cross the English Channel to marry King Ethelred II, also known as Ethelred the Unready, who was 20 years her senior. Ethelred's first wife had died, producing him with 10 children, so Emma and Ethelred's union wasn't needed necessarily for producing heirs, although in 1003 Emma gave birth to their first child, a son who they named Edward, who would become known as Edward the Confessor. Shortly after that, another son followed named Alfred, and then a daughter named Gunhilda soon followed. Ethelred gave his young wife extensive lands and properties in Winchester, Devon, Oxfordshire, Exeter, Suffolk and Rutland. And although their union was to help ease the Viking forces that was terrorising England, for Ethelred, it wasn't happening quick enough. Ethelred, desperately eager to expel all the Danes, Ethelred had orchestrated St. Brice's Day massacre on the outskirts of northern England. It had resulted in many lives being lost. That included Gunhilda, the sister of King of Denmark, Sweyn Forkbeard. King Sweyn's invasion in the first decade of the 11th century lasted 3 years. Emma and her young children were forced to flee to Normandy to seek the protection from her brother Richard II. Ethelred was forced to escape to the Isle of Wight, where he later joined Emma in Normandy. Sweyn had successfully taken control of England, although his reign wouldn't last long. Sweyn died suddenly in 1014, and Queen Emma and King Ethelred's return would be anything but peaceful. King Ethelred died in 1016, and his death had put Emma's future in jeopardy. The practice of primogeniture, I think, wasn't yet officially implemented, So Ethelred's children from his first wife took precedence over his children he had with Emma. Ethelred's first two eldest sons had died. So Ethelred's third eldest son, which was Edmund Ironside, had began manoeuvring for control after the death of his father. After several long battles, Edmund Ironside had agreed to divide England with Sylvain's son Canute. Edmund died in November 1016. Canute now had control of the whole country. Still only in her 20s, Emma, in need to secure her status, had married the man who stole the crown. From there, Emma's influence only grew, and Emma had allegedly married Canute on the condition that he spared her children she had with Ethelred. Canute, who would likely have had them killed to prevent their claims to the crown. Emma, in return, had sworn to Canute that the children she would have with him would have precedence in the line of succession over the one she had with Ethelred. A year later, Emma gave birth to their first child, a son named Harthacnut. Emma and Canute's marriage appeared to have been a happy one. They grew into a powerful political team, although it soon seemed that not everyone was as satisfied with the marriage as they were, especially the church. During the raids, Canute had destroyed many of the church's properties, and the church had become hostile towards them. Emma, now growing into an impressive politician, she soon found a solution. Emma had the churches reconstructed and gifting the leaders the vast amounts of land and given them priceless gifts. Emma gave the Bishop of Winchester a golden cross, and she even made one of her advisors Archbishop of Canterbury. Emma had her husband finance all of these endeavours. But there were still many that had initially doubted her talents. Queen Emma was quickly proving herself in a time when women were seen as mere nurturers. Emma was often left to rule England alone, as Canute was frequently sailing overseas. But Emma's world would soon turn upside down again, when in 1035 her husband King Canute died. This leaving many vying for the English throne yet again. Canute's son from his first marriage, Harold Harefoot, was the only one in England at the time. So he quickly took advantage, and he had himself crowned as regent. Canute's son with Emma, Harthacnut, was crowned king of Denmark, but he would soon begin challenging Harefoot's claim. In 1036, leading to arrests, deaths, and instability once again, Harefoot was officially crowned in 1037. Harefoot had arrested Emma's youngest son by Ethelred, Alfred, and he had him brutally blinded. Alfred either died from his injuries or he was murdered. Alfred's older brother, Edward the Confessor, fled to Normandy, while their mother, Emma, escaped to Flanders in northern Belgium. But Emma would soon make a spectacular return. Harthacnut had rallied his people in 1040, and he led an invasion that coincided with Harefoot's death. Emma had spent her time in Flanders swaying the English nobility to her son's side, and she even had a book commissioned, Encomium of Queen Emma. I think I pronounced that right. I probably haven't. But the sole purpose of this book was to praise her and her accomplishments while she solidified Harthacnut's right to rule. All of her hard work had soon paid off, as Harthacnut became King of England that same year in 1040. Emma became Queen Mother for the first time, aged around 56, and with the blessing from Harthacnut, Emma had invited her eldest son, Edward the Confessor, back to England, where he was bestowed all of Essex. Harthacnut died in 1042, and Emma once again contrived to make her son King of England. Edward, who would now become known as Edward the Confessor, for 2 kings in a row, by 2 different kings, Emma had maintained her status as Queen Mother. The succession of Edward had jeopardised her standing. Edward was displeased with his mother for her support of Harthacnut's claim over the throne rather than his. So Edward had stripped her of her role in the treasury, and he had her removed from court. Edward even married Edith Godwinson, who was the daughter of Godwin, Earl of Wessex, who had killed Emma's son Alfred and Edward's younger brother. The one story that was said why she quickly lost favour with Edward was after the Archbishop of Canterbury had accused her of having an affair with the Bishop of Winchester, Alfred. In order to prove her innocence, Emma was made to undergo a trial by fire, which would become known as the Ordeal of Queen Emma. In this, she was ordered to prove her innocence. So Emma was made to walk over 9 red-hot ploughshares that was placed on the pavement in the nave of Winchester Cathedral. Emma, who was plainly dressed, and her feet and legs were bare up to the knees, and Emma walked along these ploughshares that were red hot and incredibly sharp, and she walked across them unscathed, not a mark on her. Edward was said to have dropped to his knees in amazement, and he was begging his mother for her forgiveness. Edward had his mother pardoned, and she was allowed back to court. Although this story is almost certainly a fabrication, but it was first mentioned over 100 years later. Emma was reconciled with Edward, but she wouldn't have the same position as the king's mother that she had when Harthacnut reigned. Emma eventually retired to her own estates, living the rest of her life in obscurity. Emma died on the 6th of March in 1052, aged around 68. Emma was buried in the Old Minster at Winchester alongside her husband King Canute and her favourite son Harthacnut, the first queen to be laid to rest there since Alfred the Great's wife Elswith was buried next to her husband. Emma had played a pivotal role in English politics in the first half of the 11th century. The effects leading to the fateful events in 1066. William the Conqueror was Emma of Normandy's nephew. Emma was a prominent figure, particularly in the reigns of Canute and Harthacnut. She was the most distinguished woman of her time. Emma had played a pivotal role in the English politics in the first half of the 11th century. The effects leading up to the fateful events in 1066. William the Conqueror was Emma of Normandy's nephew. Emma was a prominent figure, particularly in the reigns of Canute and Harthacnut. She was the most distinguished woman of her time. Emma's story provides the background to the Norman conquest through the personal and political relationships formed in the first half of the 11th century. But Emma also had 2 daughters. She had one with Ethelred and one with Canute. Emma's daughter Gunhilda with Canute was married to King Henry III of Germany, the son and heir of Conrad II, Holy Roman Emperor. They had a daughter named Beatrice, who became abbess of Quedlinburg of northern Germany. I really apologise if I've just butchered that pronunciation. I really do apologise. Gunhilda died on the 18th of August in 1038, possibly from malaria. Godgifu, or Goda, also known as Countess Goda, was Emma's daughter with Ethelred. And there's very little known about Godgifu. Like her brothers, she probably spent time in exile before and after her father's death. At some time, she married Drogo, who was the Count of Vexin, northwest France. They had 3 sons together, including Walter and Ralph the Timid, who was the Count of Hereford, who accompanied his uncle Edward the Confessor back to England, and he supported Edward throughout his reign. Drogo died in 1035, and Godgifu married Eustace II of Bologna. It's not known when Godgifu died. Some historians believe that she preceded her brother Edward the Confessor. Sometimes she gets confused with her contemporary, also called Lady Godgifu or Lady Godiva, who allegedly rode through Coventry naked. Emma of Normandy is a truly inspirational woman, and she really deserves her spot in history. Before all of my research on Emma, I would have said to you that my favourite woman through history, most inspirational woman through history, would have been Margaret Beaufort, and it still is. Margaret Beaufort will always be my most inspirational woman throughout history, apart from her great-granddaughter Elizabeth I. But Emma changed history. She made history. She was the first Queen Mother to 2 kings of England. She married 2 kings of England. And her nephew was William the Conqueror. So let me know in the comments down below, who is your favourite figure throughout history? Is it a woman or is it a man? It doesn't have to. Like I said, for me, I'm Tudors. I love the Tudors era, but I am absolutely so fascinated with the Anglo-Saxon period at the moment. So let me know down in the comments below, who is your favourite woman through history? Is it Emma of Normandy? Is it Matilda?